Good morning, Evergreen Online, and welcome to our online devotional service for February. This morning, we are on our Rosemead campus for our Lenten Park in the Church gathering. And although it isn't raining this morning, earlier weather reports had cautioned some showers for this weekend. And so out of an abundance of caution, we decided to move our gathering from Arcadia to our church campus in Rosemead, where there is the option of moving indoors if it were to rain. So if you're in the area and can get to our church before noon, we invite you to stop by. For those who RSVP'd, we'll be enjoying some delicious vegetarian empanadas from Lord Empanada in Monrovia. And this is our way of recognizing the Lenten season, as many Christians and Catholics may practice a fast from meat during these 40 days. Now at this time, while there may be a few leftovers for a few lucky winners, there's no guarantee that we'll have enough food. So if you do join us and you haven't RSVP'd, just simply bring your own breakfast and drink and you can come and hang out with everybody. Now this congregation loves good food, but we know that the real purpose of this gathering is just to be together and to build our church family relationships. Now before we dive into our devotional this morning, there are some important announcements that I want to make you aware of because we have a lot of things going on in the next few weeks. First, next week before service, we will be hosting It Takes a Village, the parent gathering in our Ministry Center Fellowship Hall at 9 a.m. This is a great space for parents of infants to 5th grade to connect with each other and discuss relevant and important topics on their parenting journey. So please contact Minu Thomas for more information. Next Sunday after service, we will be hosting our annual meeting to reflect on our journey for 2023. We'll consider all that God did in our Becoming Homemakers journey, if you recall that, and hear a few plans from the staff for 2024. We'll also be voting in a few new member candidates, so please RSVP, especially if you're planning to attend in person, so that we can order the right amount of food. This meeting is hybrid, so you can join on Zoom through the link in my weekly email. Now next month, we will also be collecting for the America for Christ offering. This is one of the handful of American Baptist special offerings that we collect annually as part of a nationwide network of churches. This offering benefits communities and organizations in need within the United States. And last year, some examples of the offering usage went toward youth enrichment programs, senior services, and helping Rainbow Acres, which many of us know is a residential community for developmentally disabled adults that we've previously sent missions teams to. Now, if you feel called, you can mark your online or in-person special offering by making a note of it. On Sunday, March 10th, we will be hosting our next baptism seminar after service at 11:30 a.m. For those that are interested in taking this important step of faith and commitment to Jesus, come to the seminar and learn about the significance of baptism and the necessary steps to be baptized here at Evergreen. If you haven't been baptized but have sensed God leading you into a season of depth and intentionality in your faith, then I highly encourage you to consider this. Pastor Jonathan will be leading the class, but you can talk to any of our pastors here if you're curious and would just like to know more. And so now let's focus our hearts and minds through a time of worship.
Lord, the refiner. The altar's where you need us. Take me there, take me there. What you need is just an offering. It's right here, my life is here, and I'll be a living sacrifice for you. You're a fire, the refiner. I wanna be consumed, I wanna be tried by fire. Purified, you take whatever you desire. Oh Lord, here's my life. I wanna be tried by fire. Purified, you take whatever you desire. Oh Lord, here's my life.
If your glory wants to come in, let it fall. We want it all. Lord, your fire is consuming. Fill this place, set it ablaze, and I'll be a living sacrifice for you. You're the fire, the refiner. I wanna be consumed. I wanna be tried by fire. Purified, you take whatever you desire. Oh Lord, here's my life. I wanna be tried by fire. Purified, you take whatever you desire. Lord, here's my life.
Clean my hands, purify my heart. I wanna burn for you, only for you. Take my life as a sacrifice. I wanna burn for you, only for you. Clean my hands, purify my heart.
I wanna burn for you, only for you. Take my life as a sacrifice. I wanna burn for you, only for you. Clean my hands and purify my heart. I wanna burn for you, only for you. Take my life as a sacrifice.
Yes, I wanna burn for you, only for you, yeah.
Clean my hands,
Purify my heart. I wanna burn for you, only for you.
take my life
As a sacrifice, I wanna burn for you, only for you. You're a fire, the refiner. I wanna be consumed. You're a fire, the refiner. I wanna be consumed. You're a fire, the refiner. I wanna be consumed. Last time, I wanna be tried.
wanna be tried by fire. Purified, you take whatever you desire. Lord, here's my life. I wanna be tried by fire. Purified, you take whatever you desire. Lord, here's my life.
We are continuing our Lenten series called Villains, where each week we're considering different villain characters from Scripture and thinking about how their stories can help us cultivate good, godly character in ourselves. Our hope is that by studying some of these characters that we might typically classify as evil, that we can appreciate some of their complexity and humanity, and that we might find ourselves in some of their stories. Now, last week we introduced the etymology of the word villain coming from the word villain, or simply a villager, a normal, average person. And that's how we're approaching our characters each week in this series, to think about each villain as kind of a more normal person, right? To perhaps they made some big mistakes, and even some of them committed some horrendous sins, but also each character having enough humanity within them somewhere to be able to see ourselves in their shoes. In some ways, each of us is a villain turned villain, and our Lenten journey is to reflect on that as we all move toward the cross. Now, this morning's character comes to us from the book of Genesis and has a really interesting story that has some racy parts, if we're being completely honest. Now, this is a longer story, so bear with me as we read it. But considering some of the things that happen, I think you'll find the story engaging, if not a little scandalous. Here's Genesis 38.
Judah got a wife for Er, his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Er, Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, "Sleep with your brother's wife, and fulfill your duty to her as a brother-in-law, to raise up offspring for your brother." But Onan knew that the child would not be his, so whenever he slept with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground to keep from providing offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death also. Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, "Live as a widow in your father's household until my son Shelah grows up," for he thought, he may die too, just like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's household. After a long time, Judah's wife, the daughter of Shua, died. When Judah had recovered from his grief, he went up to Timnah, to the men who were shearing his sheep, and his friend Hira the Adullamite went with him. When Tamar was told, "Your father-in-law is on his way to Timnah to shear his sheep," she took off her widow's clothes, covered herself with a veil to disguise herself, and then sat down at the entrance to Enaim, which is on the road to Timnah. For she saw that though Shelah had now grown up, she had not been given to him as his wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. Not realizing that she was his daughter-in-law, he went over to her by the roadside and said, "Come now, let me sleep with you." "And what will you give me to sleep with you?" she asked. "I'll send you a young goat from my flock," he said. "Will you give me something as a pledge until you send it?" she asked. He said, "What pledge should I give you?" "Your seal and its cord, and the staff in your hand," she answered. So he gave them to her and slept with her, and she became pregnant by him. After she left, she took off her veil and put on her widow's clothes again. Meanwhile, Judah sent the young goat by his friend the Adullamite in order to get his pledge back from the woman, but he did not find her. He asked the men who lived there, "Where is the shrine prostitute who was beside the road at Enaim?" "There hasn't been any shrine prostitute here," they said. So he went back to Judah and said, "I didn't find her. Besides, the men who live there said, 'There hasn't been any shrine prostitute here.'" Then Judah said, "Let her keep what she has, or we will become a laughingstock. After all, I did send her this young goat, but you didn't find her." About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law Tamar is guilty of prostitution, and as a result, she is now pregnant." Judah said, "Bring her out and have her burned to death." As she was being brought out, she sent a message to her father-in-law. "I am pregnant by the man who owns these," she said. And she added, "See if you recognize whose seal and cord and staff these are." Judah recognized them and said, "She's more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah." And he did not sleep with her again.
What a fascinating story. Tamar marries into Judah's family to his eldest son, and for some unknown reason, is deemed wicked, so God puts him to death. So Judah tells his second son, Onan to sleep with Tamar so she can conceive a child and carry on Er's name. Onan sort of sleeps with her, but uses the withdrawal method of contraception to stop Tamar from getting pregnant, because Onan realizes that if the child were to be conceived, the child wouldn't be considered his, it'd be considered Er's. God considers this wicked, as the brother-in-law, see, Onan was obligated to marry her by law. And so Onan is put to death as well. Now Judah has one more son, but he's kind of young. So Judah tells Tamar to continue living with the family and to wait until the third son, Shelah, grows up. Now already this is a crazy story by today's standards. Tamar has married 2 out of 3 sons with a potential third on the way. Now the cultural context for marriage and family for Tamar was obviously different, emphasizing the patriarchal lineage and a woman's value being caught up in her childbearing ability. And this is why Tamar is being almost passed down from brother to brother. Now from Tamar's vantage point, to bear a child that would be seen as Er's line would have meant that her child could have also eventually inherited the family's wealth as the offspring of Judah's eldest son. Now at this point, Tamar must wait for the boy Shelah to grow into an adult so he can then help Tamar conceive. So who knows how young he was at this point. We're told, though, that Judah is fearful that this third son would also die, possibly because he thought that Tamar was bad luck or somehow responsible for and Onan's death. And so even as Shelah did come of age, Judah withheld him from Tamar. And so she takes matters into her own hands and claims what she is owed through levirate marriage. She dresses as a prostitute and gets Judah himself to unknowingly sleep with her. He doesn't have his wallet on him, and so as an IOU, Judah gives Tamar his family seal and staff. Now later he sends a friend with payment to find this mysterious prostitute, but she's nowhere to be found, so he decides to just keep quiet about it and to avoid any embarrassment. When Tamar eventually becomes pregnant, Judah accuses her of being promiscuous and wants to have her burned to death. Now, can I just say this family is completely messed up at this point? Well, when Tamar comes before Judah, she holds out his seal and staff, which he gave her, and says, "This is the man who I slept with. These things belong to him." Now talk about an awkward moment, right? Judah, I imagine, with nervous laughter says, "Whoops, my mistake. She's more righteous than I," and he references the levirate rights that she's entitled to. She eventually gets pregnant, or is pregnant, and gives birth to twin boys. Now there is a lot in this passage, and this being only an online devotional, there's way too much to cover today. So I just want to hone in on one particular thought. Now as we consider all the characters in this story, Judah, Onan, Shelah, and Tamar, who's the real villain? Right? Because it's actually kind of hard to identify. Is wicked. Onan is wicked. Judah is manipulative. Shelah is kind of an accomplice in this. And Tamar, even though Tamar was the vulnerable party in this story, we might guess why some might even consider her methods to be questionable. Tamar, rightly so, is, though, the only one that's identified as righteous in this story. In fact, what she does is nothing short of pure genius with immense courage. She fulfills her obligation to her dead husband, secures the well-being of her and her children, and prevents the public shame of her father-in-law. I mean, this woman is a total boss, right? But what's interesting for our series is how Tamar was perceived. Tamar is accused of prostitution and getting pregnant out of wedlock. Yet while her methods may be unorthodox, she's still within her rights. She may not have been the villain in this story, but we can see that she was definitely villainized. And I think that's the interesting consideration for our series. I suspect that at some point in everyone's life here, we've all been villainized. We've all been made into the bad person, the villain, right? Besmirched, disgraced, discredited, bad-mouthed by someone or some people. It's a horrible feeling, and it really hurts, especially when you've done nothing that warrants it. When was the last time that you were villainized? When was the worst time that you were villainized? And here's a bonus question for you to think about. When have you villainized someone else? What's revealing of character, though, is how we react to our villainization. Because a lot of different reactions to villainization are understandable, right? We might get angry, lash out at others, take revenge. I mean, hurt people, right? That's the saying. It's all understandable. Hard to judge people when they've been hurt so deeply. But some ways to react reveal a deeper level of character, right? These people that have character have such a grasp on themselves, on their self-worth, on their understanding of their accuser, on maybe even what God is doing in that particular moment, that when they're villainized, there's usually what we might consider maybe a really extraordinary response. And I think Tamar shows this. Without any societal power or influence, she manages to fight for her children and herself, keep Judah from massive public shame, which maybe he deserves, and hold the family together as she's being disgraced and accused. You see, it's in the crucible of these situations that I think character is often revealed. Whatever has been cultivated in our hearts prior comes out. And what God teaches us in these situations, I think, is cultivated into more character for later. Now, as we come out of a week where we commemorated the Day of Remembrance and the forced incarceration of over 120,000 Japanese Americans, I'm led to reflect on the villainization of all those people. I think about my own grandparents and aunts and uncles, and especially our prime-timers and this entire congregation here at Evergreen who were forced from their lives to live behind barbed wire for years, and how they chose to react in the face of that unjust villainization. Their reactions varied from person to person, but I believe pretty much all of their reactions showed character. And this church is built on that character. The character of Tamar. Character like Tamar. And so as you reflect this week on times that you were villainized, think about, how did you react? What did God teach you? And how might God be cultivating something deeper within you through that experience? And so now receive the blessing of the benediction. May God nurture and grow a character like Tamar deep within each of us this year. That in the crucible of life's cruelest moments, something extraordinary might emerge. Grace and peace to you. We'll see you next week.